Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Becca Bertrand, the Executive Director of Newport Film, and we are thrilled to be back with our live Q&As related to the Newport Film virtual program. It's been a while since we've seen you. We had a great summer doing some drive-ins all over Aquidneck Island and beyond, up to Warwick and TF Green Airport, and we can't wait to get back to seeing people in real life again. But for the meantime, while we're still at home, we're going to keep bringing you some amazing documentary titles just when they're coming out that we can't wait to share with you. And then as much as we can, we'll be doing these Q&As. So if you're just joining us for the first time and you're joining on Facebook or on YouTube, throughout the Q&A, if you have any questions for the filmmaker or for our partner in this program, the Autism Project, you can ask those questions right in the chat section, and we'll be able to ask them directly to our amazing film team. I am beyond pleased to be joined tonight by the incredible director behind The Reason I Jump, Jerry Rothwell. He's joining us tonight from London. Hi, Jerry.
Hi.
And I'm also thrilled to be joined by Joanne Quinn, who's the executive director of the Autism Project here in Rhode Island.
Hi, everyone.
Jerry, your film is absolutely stunning. And I think it tells a really incredible story that whether you're impacted directly by autism or not really resonates with so many audiences. And it's, of course, based on the book by Naoki Higashida, written by a young man who was uncommunicative with autism and tells his story through an incredible process. And I wonder if you could tell us first, before we dive too much into the film, if you could give us a little background on the book and how you got to know this whole topic.
Right. I mean, I found out about the book from two of the film's producers, Jeremy Deere and Stevie Lee, who you see in the film. They're the parents of Joss. And I think they'd come across the book when Joss was maybe 5 or 6, and the book had been really revelatory to them in the way that they understood their son. So in the film, when they kind of approached me and my usual producer, Al Morrow, about making the film, I've in my sort of career done a fair amount of work with autistic people, with non-speaking autistic people as well, and so it felt sort of familiar. But the book was, I think, still kind of taught me a lot. And my first instinct was to go and meet Naoki, so I went to Japan. And Naoki still communicates with the same method. He's now 26.
Wow.
He wrote the book when he was 12. He still communicates with the same method he used to write the book, which is essentially pointing to a letterboard. And he can also type independently on a keyboard. But letterboard, I think, for some reason, kind of distraction-wise, is kind of his preferred method of communicating. He does it without any kind of physical support, or his mother's in the room, but not influencing the words he's writing. And that was a kind of amazing experience. And he's every bit as kind of poetic and has a kind of the wisdom that's in that he had as a 12-year-old in the book. And he kind of was excited by the project, but had one kind of rule, which was that he didn't want to be in it, or he didn't want to out him. So that kind of felt, difficult, but I think sent the film down a path which maybe was much more exciting than a biopic.
Yeah. And I think it makes it a lot more relatable because people from if you haven't seen the film yet, you have until later this evening to watch the film through newportfilm.com. It's available streaming until midnight, so you can just simply RSVP for a free ticket, and you can begin it tonight, actually, and you have 48 hours to finish. So if you don't have all the time tonight to watch, you definitely get your chance. But as you're watching the film, it's really a journey across the world of different families impacted by autism. And I think what's really interesting is the different and creative ways that some of the characters are using to express themselves. And I think I'm really, particularly moved by the more artistic responses, whether they become a painter or a drawer, or, I wonder if they were excited by film cameras and thought that would be so I wonder if all the film subjects had seen the film, and if they had the chance to go to Sundance, to the in-person Sundance last year.
Yeah, everyone's seen the film, I think. I mean, I always sort of show the film in the rough cut stage to people, but obviously this time we had to do it through, yeah, well, because everyone was in different countries, we couldn't all kind of sit in a room and do it, but I was sending links to people. And Ben and Emma came to Sundance, which was and did the Q&As at Sundance, which was a really great experience, I think.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, Joanne. While Joanne is clearing her throat, I'll if you have a chance, Joanne, if you'd like to tell us a little bit more about the Autism Project and your work in the community, that would be great for us to hear and to share with our audiences. And I know a lot of your families are joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you. The Autism Project really is an organization that started grassroots, and it really grew out of the public school system, where educators are looking at how can we educate children with autism within their own public schools in their neighborhoods. And we've evolved over the years and do a lot of, we teach. It's, we say we teach what we practice. We don't practice what we teach. What we preach, we teach what we practice. We go out, we find different, evidence-based interventions, and we learn them to the best of our abilities, and then we bring them back, and we humble ourselves working with our kids and our young adults through social groups, through consultations and trainings in schools to find out about the interventions, really taking it from when you go to a conference and you get an idea and you come home and it goes up on a shelf, we're that bridge in between, where we're going to learn what it is, and then we're going to show you and model it for you and get it so that you can use it within your classrooms. But we also, we do it for families. We do a lot of family training and education. We're passionate that parents need more support and education and to learn about their children and different ways to learn about their children and the community. So you make contact with us, we're going to teach you something because we really are passionate about being interpreters. We interpret ourselves to our autistic friends, and we interpret what they are thinking, saying, doing to others, so that we can get to the bottom of what they really are saying, what they're communicating, and how we can support them to be as independent and purposeful in their lives.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And I think, you used a really nice word, interpreters. And I think there's so much about the story, Jerry, that you've presented that is interpreting Noki's words through the stories of so many other people, which is really incredible, because it makes even the title, The Reason I Jump, when you see the kids on the trampoline and having an understanding of why they're jumping, it's not because they're angry. It might be because they're frustrated because of communication. And I think that's really, really powerful. And I wonder how you came across the other film subjects. I know you said you were friendly with one of those subjects, but I wonder how you met everybody else from all around the world.
I mean, I think we came across Amrit's artwork online. Amrit is a I think started drawing and painting at the age of sort of 4 or 5, partly as a way of communicating with her mother, and now that's turned into this incredible artwork that she does. She's an incredibly prolific sort of painter. And I suppose I felt that one of the things the film needs to do was to take you into a different way of seeing, and obviously a visual artist was a great way of doing that. So in a way, that's why the film starts with Amrit. And then I'd been making film in Sierra Leone, and I was kind of interested in the way in which autism played out in an African context, and came across Mary's work with families in rural areas there, and the school that she'd set up. So that made the contact with Christina and Mary and Roland. And then I was kind of wondering, could we find someone who would kind of give the film a slightly more kind of political turn, sort of people that were were kind of outspoken advocates who maybe use the same methods of communication that Naki put in the book with. And I found Ben and Emma who were kind of the perfect to explore those ideas with.
Mm-hmm. They were amazing, and I loved following them when they were typing to each other, and they said that Emma is my North Star. It was so amazing, and I mean, it just makes you realize, why would you think that friendship would be any different for people with autism? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. I wonder, Joanne, if you in your work in Rhode Island see those same kind of tools that are at play, using the letter board. Is that something that you have seen a lot with some of the families that come to programs for the Autism Project, and your thoughts?
We haven't seen the letter board. I've heard a lot about it, and I have some friends, actually one in Switzerland and one in Louisiana, who have gone and studied with a woman in Texas, and their kids do the rapid typing, and which is similar. But we are big proponents. Everything we do for anybody, if we're setting up an expectation, we're setting up an activity, or we're teaching parents how to set up an expectation or activity, or within the schools, it's very structured. We do a lot with structured teaching, but also with the visuals. Everything is visually supported in whichever way works best for that individual, and we assess and reassess and switch it all the time. We also use, which I think is important, a methodology in our heads of why ask why, and we teach that to people. Like you said, we ask why are they saying this? Why are they doing this? Rather than making an assumption for somebody as to why they're doing something, because we're true believers that all behavior is a form of communication, and we're not going to put our assumptions and our thoughts, we're not going to project them onto them. We work very hard to find out what are you communicating to me, and how can we best support you through the use of I want to get the letter boards and see if some of our speech pathologists will work with that, but through other ways of using visual supports to have them tell us what's going on. And it's exploded since the iPads and the internet. Yeah. Because we used to put choice boards in front of people, but that's our voice. We're putting all choices that we think you like because you liked them last week. And now there's a great movie out, a video of a young girl who's nonverbal, and her dad's like, "Come on, let's have coffee. We're gonna have coffee." And it's all about the sensory, and she's getting overloaded. And all she keeps saying is, "I want hot chocolate," but she can't say it because she's nonverbal. And it wasn't on, but now they have the internet, and they can the world is their voice now, and it's been a big change.
Mm-hmm. Was that challenging, Jerry, making the film and following these film subjects when you're sort of, did you find yourself thinking that you knew what way a conversation or an interaction would go, and then it went somewhere completely different?
I think it was, our method was very much just about trying to kind of be with people rather than sort of try and direct a film. It was very much about, there were clues in Naoki's writing about how we might approach certainly the kinds of experiences and sensory experiences he has. So, for example, one of the things he says about himself is that he tends to see detail before he sees the big picture. So that's clearly a kind of filmic language suggested there, that you explore kind of details and close-ups. But Naoki himself says he doesn't speak for all autistic people, and I think you see from the film that the people there are very different from each other, and we didn't want them to become just like case studies of the book, so it was very much about how could we just be with each of the subjects of the film in their environment and try and think about that environment in a different, maybe more sensory way. Just try and think about what's the environment, sort of what are the sounds here, what are the things which might kind of impinge on you, and try and shoot in that way, and also just spend time with people basically.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. We have a great question here from the audience. It's a little long, but I think it'll pop up nice and big there. From an incredible arts educator in our community, Charlene, who says she read the book a few years back and it helped understand the importance of wanting to communicate and being a part of the group. I currently teach art to many students on the spectrum, and I was thrilled to see the importance arts played in a vibrant way for communication. Is Amrid selling her work, and is that helping to support her? Thank you, Char.
Yes, she is, and yes, I think it's a big ambition of the family that's a kind of a means of Amrit to her independence. We've just, as of yesterday, in fact, created these two sort of resource packs to go with the film, which are available in the States. One, they're available from the film's website, which is the reason I've jumped, film.com. And in there, you'll find a link to the website that sells Amrit's work.
That's great. Oh, that's amazing.
One of those booklets is kind of about self-advocacy and really is written by autistic people, mostly non-speaking autistic people. The other is, again, written by autistic people, autistic consultants, but aimed at practitioners and educators.
That's great. Joanne, was there anything through your work or any questions that you might have for Jerry?
I thought it was really wonderful. I was wondering how you connected with the speech pathologist. Was that through through the parents of the kids, the young adults? Because
I mean, Elizabeth was the person who had kind of taught Ben and Emma to use the letterboard, and she has this practice in Arlington and in Virginia. You know, and I think it's not a quick fix; it's a long process.
Yes.
And I think I don't know how long Elizabeth's been working with Ben and Emma, but I think it was kind of 10 years now, probably. So it was really through Ben and Emma that we kind of found out about Elizabeth's work.
I think it was a really good display of when she said they had been working since she was 6 years old or 5 years old, and now she's a young adult, to show, we keep pushing early intervention, but we see more of our 18 to 22-year-old almost young adults who've been with us since they were little, who were more nonverbal, non-communicative, who now they're acting like teenagers, and the emotions are coming all over the place, and the language is coming, and it's a really good message to just don't give up. We don't stop learning at 4 years old when early intervention ends, and so much comes out, especially like 13 to 25. We see some of the biggest growth in some of the people working with us.
And I think things are changing a lot, aren't they? I mean, like Jim, the Japanese boy who's in the film, who kind of plays a role like a kind of, I don't know, a sort of spirit of the book, that kind of, we basically wanted something where we could put parts of the book without imposing them on the subjects of the film. But Jim, I think his parents read The Reason I Jumped. So Jim was also a non-speaking autistic boy. Parents read the book, I think, shortly after he was diagnosed, and that kind of, in a way, I think also really changed their expectations. And Jim uses an iPad to communicate. As you say, iPads are just incredibly powerful communication tools.
I think the point of the sensory is so important too, because my son is 25, a young man with autism, and when he was first diagnosed, it was sensory is thought to be the voodoo. It's voodoo medicine, and all of us have to be regulated. Think about it when you've had the biggest argument with your partner in life or anybody, and you just can't access it. You're so overloaded, you can't access this, your language the way you would be a little bit more proper. And so that's what we really work on with our families and people too, is how do we get ready to learn? How do we get our emotional and our physical regulation to a point where we're open to learning, and you make a whole lot more progress when you realize it's not made up science, it's true science, and we all have it. And their neurology has, a lot of differences, and we need to work with that. How can we get you ready to learn? And a lot of the new yoga and the presence and mindfulness is so important for the parents too, because we can sit there with a smile on our face, but they can feel our engine running. They can feel the anxiety that's inside of us. So if we can take ourselves and calm ourselves down and get everybody in a ready to learn place, then we learn to communicate better and get our points across. And I think seeing that in the movie, where it validates that this is real, this is how people feel, was a really important message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was going to say that making the film made me think a lot about the way in which I, deal with sensory experiences, and what the filters that you have, and how those filters sometimes drop, and there's a book by Donna Williams called Autism and Sensing. She's an autistic writer. One of the things she says is that, autistic experiences are not kind of outside the panoply of human experiences. We all have moments where something becomes too loud or too confusing, or we're focused intently on something, or we're not listening, language doesn't make sense. It's just the difference between, having those experiences at certain times and actually living in that place all the time.
Right.
That sort of goes with another question we have, which a little bit talked about the sensory issues that you spoke about, Joanne. But this question is sort of about what are some of the biggest challenges in portraying unique perspectives of these film subjects, if you think there's any takeaway, and maybe how it could help other filmmakers in their work.
I mean, I think that, some people say the film tries to simulate something, and I think it doesn't. My feeling is we're not really, in a way, trying to simulate an experience. I don't think that's even possible. Like, I don't know how you experience the world, and you don't know how I experience. We're in a totally subjective guesswork if we were trying to do that. But I guess what we tried to do was just to try and just shift an audience's perspective from the way you would see reality, in a kind of very neurotypical way. And actually, I think cinema does that all the time anyway. That it's almost, that is the language of cinema, to focus you intently on particular things or particular sounds, or to use sound in particular ways. So quite naturally, I suppose, the language of cinema and maybe the language of autistic experience kind of fit together, I think. And it was, I certainly learned things about making films from doing this, and from Nak's book.
Sure. Yeah. I wonder, when did you start filming this, and how long did it take?
Sorry, I missed the first.
When did you start filming?
I mean, usually these feature docs take, the longest I've taken on one is about 7 years, and sometimes the shortest, I think, is about 3 years. So, and I'd say this was a 3-year one. I mean, usually that is because it takes so long to raise the funds to make the feature doc. But I guess our shooting was, apart from filming with Joss, which we started early on because he was near to us and we knew him, and he was part of the producer's family. We really did the shoots kind of in 2 sort of blocks. We probably shot about 30 or 40 days altogether, and over a sort of 6-month period, something like that.
Oh, that's great. And do you have any updates on any of our film subjects now?
Yeah, so well, Amrit is still Amrit's. I mean, I think lockdown's been difficult for everyone. Sure. I think it's difficult for all autistic families with autistic people. Amrit, I think, suddenly went through a very productive phase during lockdown. She was doing really huge paintings. Ben and Emma did move into their housing, which you see them going around at the end of the film. So they now live across the corridor from each other in this in a supported housing development in Arlington. And Justina spent a period in the UK, is now back in Sierra Leone. And Joss has been mostly at his school during lockdown. That's been particularly tough, I think, because those in residential accommodation, residential education, which Joss is, haven't been able to have visitors, haven't been able to leave. Yeah. And that's been pretty.
No, that's awful. My gosh. And just a reminder, if anyone out there, I know we've got quite a few people watching, if people have any questions that you want answered by either Jerry or by Joanne and some of her work here in Rhode Island, feel free to type those into the chat. And just a mention, we put up in that chat feature a link to the resource guide that Jerry mentioned, so you can find all the things he was talking about, the link to buying artwork and all kinds of other amazing resources, because I think that this is a film that once you finish it, you want to talk about it and you want to connect with other people. And that's such an incredible testament to your storytelling, Jerry. Joanne, do you have any final thoughts for us or questions for Jerry?
No, I just want to say thank you, because I think you really captured the daily experience, the life experience of so many very unique people, and to show their abilities, because so many times they're underestimated. And to see, we have our Julia here, who is an artist also, and will probably support herself on her art. And she started at 5 years old, hand over hand, going from a dot to a dot with a line. And now she just explodes art all day, every day. And you just don't give up. And, we keep saying, they're going to cure cancer. They don't know they're in a box. They don't even know a box exists. Their point of view, their vision, their thoughts are so wonderful. But to show the impact of the sensory and how we have to be respectful of that. And if we can work and support each other, it's going to be a much better world with some really interesting people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Jerry, can you tell our audiences if they haven't watched the film with Newport Film and they want to still catch it and they can't watch it tonight, where's its next?
The film's unreleased in the States through Kino Lorber. In the rest of the world, it's on release in Canada at the moment as well. In the rest of the world, it's gradually going to kind of go out through the rest of this year. I think the UK is the end of April. In the States, if you still haven't seen it, best to go to the Kino Lorber website. They have this virtual cinema pattern, which no doubt Newport Film is part of, and you find the nearest cinema to you, and you can watch the film through that cinema.
That's great. And Jerry, what do you?
The DVD and the Blu-ray come out in 10 weeks' time, something like that.
Terrific. Are you working on anything now? I know it's hard to be working, maybe editing something now.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of editing. Yeah, I'm doing a project sort of based on 300 hours of tape recordings from a house said to be haunted by poltergeists. So
cool.
It's a documentary, and maybe it's also about sensory perception.
Wow, that's exciting. Oh my goodness.
A lot of energy out there, Jerry. A lot of energy, absolutely.
That is just terrific. We can't wait to see that. That's pretty amazing. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, Jerry, for your incredible film. Please thank the entire film team from all of us in Rhode Island. We really, really appreciated it. And I think it was a really wonderful, beautiful story that's important for everyone to see. And thank you, Joanne, so much for partnering with us on this film screening. If you'd like to learn more about the Autism Project and their work in Rhode Island, you can go to theautismproject.org and get in touch with Joanne and her amazing team and take advantage of some of the local resources for families impacted by autism. And we want to thank you all so much for joining us for this great Q&A. Our next film in Newport Film Virtual will be in 2 weeks' time. We're showing the film MLK FBI in partnership with the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities Culture is Key project. It's an incredible film, and there's a really great partnership we also have with a program called Story in the Public Square at Salve Regina, and will be a full podcast interview with the filmmaker that will accompany that. So we hope that you join us back here for another Q&A in 2 weeks. And thank you all so much for being with us tonight. Thank you again, Jerry and Joanne and everyone out there. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Becca.
Thank you, Becca.
Thanks.